Good evening and welcome to our first program, The Point. And tonight with me I have the Honorable Prime Minister of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Sylvester Harris. And I have always likened life to the playing of an orchestra, where the boisterous tuning up comes first, followed by the sweetly blended harmonious music. Quite a lot has been happening with respect to the boisterous tuning up. And now it is time for us to witness and engage ourselves in the sweetly blended harmonious music. Tonight I have with me, I consider, and I would like to take this opportunity to tell the Honorable Prime Minister in person that of the three Prime Ministers that we would have had, I have considered him to be the best amongst all three thus far. And it can only get better. Now, why are we here? The person, we were given a mandate. You had a team unity construction that was of the CCM, PAM, and the PLP. They were given a mandate by the voters to serve until 2025. But selfishness displaced selflessness. And as a result, this is where we find ourselves today. The country have been patiently waiting the voice of our Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris, and it is unfortunate. And the pertinent question that most persons are asking is, why are we here? We have unexpected election campaign just around the corner. We are going to be discussing the key themes each week, hearing from you, our listeners, and you can put your questions to our guests each week. So why are we here? Team unity, a construction made up of CCM, PAM, and PLP, the coalition that the people voted for just 2 years ago. Personalities, petty politics have caused the breakdown of the coalition, with PAM and CCM stirring up trouble. So what does the PM make of all this? The good news is he will be our first special guest, as he is now. So get your questions in now, and I will put them to the PM. We are going to be discussing when the next election might be and what to expect from the campaign. What do we know is the last 2 years have been tough for our country, just like all over the entire world. As we begin to recover from the pandemic, this election is coming at a crucial or pivotal point in the election cycle or the developmental cycle, the people in our federation. We didn't expect an election after just under 2 years. But surely now, more than ever, we need stability and leadership. I'll be chatting to the PM to get his perspective on all of this. With PAM and CCM leaving the team unity government, what has this meant for the country over the last few weeks? Has everything continued? And has governing still happening? What do we know? What do we know? Well, you have heard half the story. You're now going to get the other half. What we do know is that Sean Richards didn't attend cabinet for 90 days. So the Prime Minister has been getting on with the job. We'll hear from the PM about what this all means for Nevis. There has been a lot of discussion about packages of support and how much money has been allocated to Nevis. Stay with us to hear the facts as we discuss all of this with our Prime Minister. Prime Minister, welcome to The Point.
Good night. I want to thank you for having me as your first guest in this inaugural program, The Point. And I want to also say to our fellow citizens and residents, thank you very much for tuning in tonight to this, our newest talk show. My hope is that this show would be an excellent one, as all shows that you have hosted so far have been. You raised some very pertinent issues, and in my opening remarks I will touch on some of these, not necessarily in the order in which you have raised them, but I think that we need to put things into context. I want to say that over the last 7 years that I have been serving as the Prime Minister of our Federation, we have been working very hard to put St. Kitts and Nevis on track, despite some huge challenges which we have had to confront. For example, very early in the life of the administration, we had 2 hurricanes back to back. And as a consequence, we had to be innovative. And we engaged in programs, really the Hurricane Relief Fund, or program, in which we were able to assist over 3,000 families in repairing and renovating their homes, particularly roofs and other areas of their homes that become vulnerable and in some cases no longer fit for purpose. That was a very good start, reflecting the compassion and the caring of the government. Before our time, there have been hurricanes, but there is no record of any government responding in the wholesome and comprehensive way in which we did. The contrast then between my administration and administrations before us is very real and very significant. We have had, for example, to face the COVID-19 pandemic, one of the worst pandemics to have been witnessed over the last 100 years, and for which there has been no template from which we could refer to. We therefore again had to be innovative, creative, and come together very quickly to respond to what started as a health pandemic, but in the end transformed itself into one of the worst socioeconomic challenges that the world has seen. And in fact, it destabilized large and small countries. From the most powerful country in the world, the United States of America, to the smallest independent state in the world, we see how COVID-19 made it difficult for people to live and in fact undermine their livelihood. The ILO estimated that we had approximately 200 plus million job loss when you look at the man-hours loss as a result of the pandemic. St. Kitts and Nevis was not, as it were, exempted from these adverse impacts. And yet St. Kitts and Nevis, under my leadership, did better than most in the successful management of the COVID-19 pandemic. Starting with our Life First strategy, we took the strong, hard decisions very early in the life of the pandemic to ensure that we kept our people safe. Because we were very clear, if we didn't have life, then there was no livelihood to worry about. And therefore we got our priority right. Protecting the health system, protecting our people, preserving lives, and ultimately preserving the livelihoods of our people. We did a very good job, and PAHO and the IMF and all international institutions hailed the success of St. Kitts and Nevis in the management of the pandemic. I want to give credit to all our citizens and residents because it was genuinely an all-of-society approach. And I hail in particular the work of the National Task Force, our security forces, our private sector, our religious community, all of whom work so well together to ensure our Life First strategy resulted in the best outcomes for St. Kitts and Nevis. And yet, we are not without challenges. still not 100% out of the shadows of COVID-19. On the global scene, we have the economic disruption now being occasioned as a result of the invasion of Russia, of Ukraine. And this, of course, is having significant impact on the cost of living and fuel prices that have impacted all of us. Despite these challenges, our citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis can be assured and sleep well at night knowing that the cabinet over which I preside and the wider government, we are working hard for our people. Throughout these difficult times, as the Prime Minister and national leader, I have focused relentlessly on building the stability and prosperity of our two-island federation and building a sustainable future for our people for the long term, making sure that the recovery benefits all our people in all our communities and both of our islands. Yes, I am the national leader, and I appreciate that leadership is about taking tough decisions. Many of them I've had to make over the last 7 years. Leadership is also about making the right decisions at the right time and in the national interest. I am proud of what we have been able to achieve as a government and as a people over the last 7 years. Under previous government, before 2015, we know that our country was headed in the wrong direction. And that is why the people chose something different in 2015. And I am happy and give God thanks that they chose Team Unity. Since then, under my leadership, we have done what previous governments failed to do. We took St. Kitts and Nevis out of the clutches of the IMF. We, within 1 year, paid off over $117 million of indebtedness to the IMF left behind by the administration before us. We succeeded in fixing our finances, transforming our economy, and that, of course, is being acknowledged by all the Bretton Woods institutions, the CDB and the ECCB. When we took over in 2015, crime had been out of control, and over the past 7 years, we have reversed this with patience, compassion, and the right security strategy. Thanks to all our citizens and residents and our security forces for their contribution to the peace and security of our land. The peace and tranquility remain intact. We have successfully navigated our way through the COVID-19 crisis. Again, I repeat, by making the lives of our people our top priority. And again, the security forces were a critical part of our response mechanism, and I thank them that we were able to keep our country in good order during that serious challenge. When we took over in 2015, our nation was a laughing stock. We had become the laughing stock in terms of our fiscal management because we had obtained one of the highest debt to GDP ratios in the world. And therefore our country had collapsed, forcing the government back then to go to the IMF for rescue. So the achievements that we had over the last 7 years came by hard work. And it was not by magic. It has taken leadership and teamwork. I would be the first to admit that there is still plenty to do as we move to the early stages of recovery from the global pandemic. And I want to hail the excellence of some of our senior civil servants who have gone beyond the call of duty in support of the strategies of my government. Now more than ever, as we emerge from COVID-19, and navigate the new global challenges, we need to stay the course and keep on the path that the people of this country chose in general elections less than 2 years ago. And this is why I am so very disappointed that my former partners in the coalition government have chosen to abandon their posts and undermine this great national effort at recovery. They literally stopped showing up for work. Shame on them. They failed even to attend cabinet meetings, which are critical to the functioning of an effective people-centered government. They therefore failed in the ministerial stewardship at cabinet, and they fail as representatives to be in the cabinet to support matters which were of concern to the country generally and to their constituency particularly. They have self-indulgently turned their backs on the promises they made to the people in 2020. They have selflessly gone back to the old party politics that has not served neither them nor our country well. That is, they have put their personal ambition above the needs of the people. They became too arrogant for themselves. The rule of law seemingly meant nothing to some of them. They felt that they were above the law, and it was their time rather than the people's time. I have always governed our country in accordance with the letter of our Constitution, and I'm so very proud of that. I would not, as your Prime Minister, be blackmailed into abandoning our commitments halfway through the life of this Parliament. I was left with no choice, therefore, but to dismiss those cabinet ministers for gross neglect of their duties, and to ask the Governor-General to dissolve the Parliament and set us on the path to fresh elections, because democracy is about the people. And I wanted, rather than to give in to their blackmail, to resign so that they could automatically take over the Prime Ministership and damage the country, go back to the people, because I have full confidence in the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to make the right decision with respect to governance and government. I want to commend the new members of my cabinet for their yeoman's service, or I should say the members of the new cabinet for their yeoman's service. They have been working very hard to ensure the stability of the country. They have been working hard to ensure that we could continue to deliver. Tomorrow, for example, on the 25th of May, our civil servants will be receiving their retroactive payments of the historic 10% wage increase proposed by my administration. Before this, we have had 4%, 3%, and 6%. Therefore, the payment of double-digit increase in salaries speaks well to the fiscal health of the federal government and our continuing interest in investing in our people at this their hour of deepest need. We see it as part of a strategy to spur economic activity in the country. We see it as part of our safety net response to assist people who are undergoing hardships that are externally imposed as a result of the movement in the prices of goods and service. And so I'm happy that we have been able to deliver this significant increase in wages and salaries to our people. This new cabinet has been able to oversee the smooth phase implementation of the regularization of our step workers, giving them now permanent jobs, giving them now an opportunity to go to banks, secure loans, giving them now a letter on which they could rely upon to access visas and other benefits. Yes, political disruption is the last thing that our nation needs at this time. It is a distraction, really, from the great challenge of national recovery. All the gains we have made over the last 7 years could be undone in a matter of months or even weeks under the wrong leadership. So there is a great deal at stake for all of us and for St. Kitts and Nevis. My message is a simple one. If our people want, and I do believe that they do want, and they do deserve to have continued stability, growth, jobs, sound, competent government, a government that prioritizes the prosperity for all our people and building the best future for our young people, the single most important, powerful thing that our citizens and residents can do when the general elections are called will be to vote for the People's Labour Party candidates in the upcoming elections. This will be the only party with its tent broad enough, its doors open wide enough to embrace every citizen and resident, regardless of their past political orientation. So whether you are Pam, you want to see the country move forward with stability, you want to see the build-out of the stronger and safer future, vote for the People's Labour Party candidate. If you are Douglas Labour, you want to see the safety, the peace, the reduction in crime continue, you know that the answer is to vote for the People's Labour Party candidate. You are CCM. You want to see the enormous improvement in the relationship between the people on the island of Nevis and the people on the island of St. Kitts continue. You know that you have to encourage all to be supportive of the People's Labour Party. You're NRP. You know how the People's Labour Party in a team unity construct has worked hard to ensure that every leader since the formation of team unity, every Premier of Nevis has come forward publicly and to confess the truth that Nevis has had its best days under the Prime Ministership of Dr. Timothy Harris. The People's Labour Party is the only way to go. So, as the time for the elections approaches, I and my fellow candidates of the People's Labour Party will make the challenge to our political opponents. Let this be a clean election, fought on policy and principle, so that the voters can make a clear and informed choice. Already, we have been appalled by examples of fake news generated on social media and online, and the grotesque lies and disinformation targeting members of my government, targeting me, targeting the government as a whole, and important institutions of the state. That negative campaign will not get us anywhere on the path to the stronger and safer future. Those who are manufacturing these falsehoods and those who circulate them insult the intelligence of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to urge all political parties and every citizen and resident to condemn such activity and join me in pledging that we will conduct the upcoming elections with passionate and serious debate, but also with a spirit of national civility and decency. I am committed as leader of the great People's Labour Party. I am committed as a servant of the people to continue to serve this country to the best of my God-given ability. And I want to say thank you to God for giving me the opportunity to serve my country for such a time like this. I remain committed to continuing my dedicated efforts to deliver the stronger and safer future that St. Kitts and Nevis deserves. I will work even harder to deliver more jobs and higher earnings to our citizens and residents, and I take pride in the knowledge that the Social Security record will show that the highest level of wages ever paid in this country happened under a Team Unity administration led by Dr. Timothy Harris. I am equally proud that the record will show that the largest number of persons employed in our country happened under my leadership as the Prime Minister of this country. And I intend in the next term to surpass these achievements for the people. I, of course, will continue to work hard to maintain the safety and security in our country, which many now take for granted. There was a time when we couldn't sleep at nights. Not Starshield, one of our Calypsonians did a song about the rat-a-tat-tat. King Socrates. Those were a time of the past, which if we are not careful, we could return to. The way then to lock in the peace, the way then to lock in the prosperity, is to ensure wherever you are, whoever you are, you support the Team Unity candidates. I will continue, of course, to do all that I can to ensure that the future is better. And the policies we will allow, which we will unfold, will largely set us apart from the others. I want to make the point for us. Government is about delivering for the people. And that is what I have been doing, and the cabinet I now lead is focused on doing. While some are up to political games, I and the cabinet, we have been busy stabilizing the country against incredible odds, doing the people work, working to ensure we could deliver alternative energy programs, cleaner and safer energy for our people. We have been working hard, of course, to ensure that the water problems that had been left unsolved by previous administrations will be solved under an administration led by me. Yes, we will work even harder to ensure every student leaving our institutions of learning in terms of work. We will ensure that the peace programs continue. We will ensure that our social safety nets are such that they bring the requisite level of support to the poor and needy. I pledge to continue to do all in my power for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, whom I love so very much. So thank you again for this opportunity to speak to the people through your program and to again confirm my abiding love for this country and most importantly for the people. To God I give the glory.
Before we get those praises from persons who were presumably being antagonistic towards you, Harris again, we have never seen such light.
Yes.
It's like a generous offering of bottled sunshine. And before we get that, I have a ticklish question for you though. Do you think that leaders were born?
Well, I believe leadership is in part a gift, and leaders can learn on the job with help, but there must be a willingness. Leadership in the context of our nation is really, to me, a special gift from God. And all great leaders look to God in prayer to deal with the challenges that they have to confront, to deal with the adversity, because given our own human frailty, our own wisdom will not take us through. And many a times as I deal with the worry of where the country is at, when I deal with the treachery if you will, of those who were my former colleagues. The savagery with which they conducted themselves in public. I turn to my God for help in these troublous times. And so I am confident in the end, God, to the people, choose the leaders. And so our country and our people must continue to pray for great leadership and continue to ensure that God give leaders the wisdom.
I think it was divine intervention when that supreme being of which nothing greater can be perceived had our federation blessed with somebody of your characteristics and leadership.
Thank you very much.
Very high quality.
Coming from you, I feel privileged.
Could we queue up on those Harris again? Do we have them at hand? That those who are listening whet their appetite.
Every team must have a captain.
We are ranked #1 in good governance by the World Justice Project.
Because his leadership has brought us this far, and his leadership will take us for the next journey.
3 different political parties working together as one to bring growth and development to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
I think the relationship is the best that it has ever been between St. Kitts and Nevis.
That is not something we inherited. That is something achieved under this Team Unity administration.
And the federal government under the caring leadership of Dr. Timothy Harris.
A man who works 24/7.
We are the best that we have ever been in the history of these two islands.
And that is why I continue to say it's Harris again.
Any good team need a good leader, and we got the best leader St. Kitts and Nevis could have.
And I am here to say today that so long as I am here, so long as I am able to make a contribution, we, the members of Team Unity, shall never disappoint the people of.
Because we recognize the importance of Team Unity.
Unity has been good for the people of St. Kitts, and it has been good for the people of Nevis.
The best prime minister in the region. Election after election after election is Harris again, Harris again, Harris again, Harris again,
Harris again.
Harris again.
Now, Mr. Prime Minister, what does this mean for the country with respect to the change in composition of the unity government?
Well, I would say the cabinet that we now have is a cabinet that is industrious and committed to the country. I am satisfied, and I want to commend all of them. The new Deputy Prime Minister, the Honourable Jane Hamilton, the Honourable Akila Byron Nisbet, the Honourable Wendy Phipps. They and our Cabinet Secretary, Josephine Huggins. I think the team that we now have is one committed to national duty. They have taken on additional portfolios, and they are not complaining, working very hard to ensure that the government continues to deliver for the people. What we need is a cabinet devoted to service. And I think that the cabinet as now constituted reflect that. Every day they are at work. No absenteeism. That is critical. We had cabinet, for example, yesterday we went very late. Cohesive, united cabinet, united to deliver the services to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Am I sensing a subtle satisfaction of good riddance?
I leave that for the people to make a determination. What I want really is to have a cabinet of people motivated by service, not personal agenda, not seeking aggrandizement. And I think that the persons who are there now are certainly humbled by the opportunity to serve the people and the country. And I believe that they therefore are performing excellently. I mentioned in my opening remarks some of the things that we have been able to do. and I speak to some of the things that will happen in the near future by this new cabinet. Things that had been delayed, for example, for a long period of time. These new ministers now have to take them aboard with their previous portfolios with some amendments and ensure they're executed. We had a solar farm project. We had a groundbreaking ceremony with the former Deputy Prime Minister. Years after, nothing to really show for that. We now have been able, yesterday finally, to have pertinent matters addressed at the cabinet, and that project now can move forward. And it's critical at this time when issues related to energy affordability and reliability are pronounced around the world. So I am satisfied that the country can sleep safely, knowing that the right people are there doing the right job.
It's more heart than head. That is what I'm sensing. There must be a hybridization of heart and head.
There have to be.
More heart than head.
That is needed.
To serve people with humility.
Yes.
And this is what we are getting.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't usually push plugs, but I'm almost tempted to push plug for the saving in salaries that were effectuated. If there's a little percentage of that can be given as an honorarium for those who have to carry the extra burden, because it seems as if with fewer, more is being done.
That is certainly true, and I want to thank you for that thoughtfulness. I believe that it will be something well deserved by those who are working ever so hard. But I also want to thank the senior civil servants who understand the seriousness of the time, the criticality of the time, and are rendering loyal professional service to the members of cabinet at this critical moment. I have to single out, if I were to single out any of them, I would perhaps get myself in trouble. And so I would just want to say to all of them, thank you from the bottom of my heart for rising to the occasion. Immediately after the cabinet reshuffle, I met with the senior functionaries of the government. They came and we spoke frankly about what was happening, their duty, the ethos of professionalism that has to be displayed for the benefit of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so I think things are going good. I was in Keon last night. I met with over 60 young persons, men and women. And I was impressed when one of the young men who spoke said, you know, Prime Minister, no one can doubt that the country is running good. The country is running good because it has experienced, capable, tested leadership. And I speak not just to my experience, my competence and leadership, but to the other functionaries of the cabinet and the wider civil service. So I say thank God for people who understand that in good times and bad, they owe a duty of care, consideration, and a duty to perform exceptionally well.
We had the adage that a bird in the hand is worth two in the bushes. That would have changed considerably. And it is now there that a bird, in particular this bird, is worth every bird, all the birds in the bushes. How do you respond to that? A bird in the hand is worth almost all in the bushes at this particular juncture in the development of our federation.
Well, I think if the test is a performance test and people are honest, St. Kitts and Nevis has emerged as a top-performing country around the world. People marvel at what we have been able to do. People marvel at the fact that last year the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance was able to pay a 13-month salary, what we call here the double salary, coming out of a pandemic when many governments were cutting back. We were in an expansionary mode, attempting to fast-track the recovery process in St. Kitts and Nevis. If you look at our stimulus packages, we offer the largest stimulus package within the region. When governments were hard pressed to do anything, we were giving income support of $1,000. We were looking after the families who had children with disabilities. We were looking after the bus operators. And we have expanded those benefits, not only to those with H buses, but to taxi operators. We have expanded the timeline for ending these particular programs. We have reduced taxes, and now corporation tax rate in the country is one of the lowest in the region. So yes, we have been performing exceptionally well, and there is no comparison between what we have been able to do now and what we will do in the future with respect to any other leader. I think on a leadership contest it is very clear. One leader can perform. One leader has been there focused on the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And those who want to be leaders have the luxury of playing political games. I have to deal with hard reality, and I have to bring to bear all of my intellectual ability, all of my knowledge and skill set, working with a team of devoted professional civil servants and my cabinet colleagues to make the right decisions for our country.
You know, that construct was so ideal. People throughout the Caribbean started looking at that team unity construct.
Yes.
I was so impressed, and I used my psychological thinking to come up with the saying that 5 is greater than 20. I don't know if you're aware of that saying. I coined that because we are impressed with the first 5 years of your leadership. So if you imagine that 5 greater than 20, what 10 would have been like? And it is just unfortunate that those of us so into mathematics and science were denied the opportunity to extrapolate.
We will have another opportunity to do the extrapolation by continuing an administration led by Dr. Timothy Harris.
Same leader.
Same leader. Same vision of delivering the stronger, safer future for our people. Same commitment to selfless service. Same commitment to bringing all our people together, irrespective of their political association. That is what we have built. That is what the cabinet even now reflects. People of all political persuasion there in the cabinet. We have PAM and we have others. There are some who have opted out, but their agenda has never been about the people. When we begin now to put the pieces together, it had always been a selfish agenda, an agenda of division, an old-time agenda of wanting political supremacy for a political party. The team unity construct, in my view, was an important one, and it lasts for 7 years. It has done better than any other similar coalition arrangement within the region in recent memory. But the dream of unity lives on in the hearts and the minds of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And the withdrawal by PAM and the withdrawal of CCM can't stop the unity train from happening. That is why I say my People's Labour Party welcomes all. So if you believe in it, and I have led it, I will continue to lead us on that path of unity, utilizing diverse talents of all our people, irrespective of their partisan political association. That is the commitment that I bring. And that is why I'm welcoming those PAM people who believe in unity. Dr. Harris will continue to deliver on it. I welcome those from the Douglas Labour Party because I can deliver from it. My own frame, my own socialization has allowed me to do that. It wasn't by chance that I emerged as a leader of Team Unity. We did polling, and polls after polls in the run-up to the 2015 election indicated that the majority of people in St. Kitts and Nevis identified one person as being able to lead the Team Unity movement. Thankfully, that person was Timothy Harris. And I'm happy that over the last 7 years, we have delivered a spectacular record. I am saddened that persons became arrogant. Persons removed themselves from the ethos, the philosophy of Team Unity, and wanted to go back to their cage. Wanted to go back to a tradition of politics that didn't even serve them well. For 20 years, Pam was in the wilderness, could not move, and would have been in the wilderness had it not been for the formation of Team Unity. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis will not go back to a Pam administration. And even now, Pam can't speak convincingly about forming a government on its own, because there is no love for that in the country anymore. And equally, the country has no desire to go back to a Douglas-led Labour Party. We have passed that. The people will now have an opportunity to benefit from the outstanding leadership I have provided to them, administering the most complex administration with 3 parties, and to reflect that now in a team which is more homogeneous, more patriotic, more willing to serve under the umbrella of the People's Labour Party. But it will reflect persons of different philosophies and agenda. The experience I have had doing so exceptionally well, if I may say what is a popular view, over the last 7 years, provides me with a solid foundation on which to build and to continue the legacy of unity in our country.
This is a sort of awkward question. It's like asking a father, a parent, of the several children you have, which is the one that you're most proud of. But this question would come this way. What is the proudest achievement that you would have had as a Prime Minister?
My proudest moment has been really delivering things that I know the people really need. And there are so many of them. I feel a sense of satisfaction when I see the change, almost revolutionary change in the peace and quiet in St. Kitts and Nevis. This every night where people couldn't walk the streets, shooting by our churches, by our business places on the street, that is all gone.
Even at the hospital?
Even at the hospital. That has been a significant transformation that has come, not by magic, but by hard work, by being innovative in creating new programs, like the Alternative Lifestyle Program, building newness, a new consciousness and confidence in our people, recognizing that our people, having been failed by the agents of socialization, be it the home, our schools, and our society, needed a new opportunity to reassert themselves and achieve their God-given potential. I am pleased about the transformation in law and order over the last 7 years and what that has done to our people. Freedom, at large. I am pleased that we had entered the COVID-19 with the strongest fiscal position of any country in the hemisphere. St. Kitts and Nevis did that. I am pleased by the fact that we inherited a CBI program whose reputation had been tarnished. In May of 2014, the U.S. Treasury Department issued the FinCEN advisory telling us that that administration had messed up the program. In November 2014, the Canadian government withdrew our visa-free access as a way of telegraphing to the entire world their loss of confidence in the way our Citizenship by Investment program was being managed. 7 years on, we haven't had those kinds of distractions and the soiling of the good name of our program, which we organize and made the Platinum the best program in the Caribbean. But equally pleased I have been when I run into people who say to me, this $500 you paid for PAP means so much to me, even more than I could have contemplated. When they tell me that this has helped them to buy their medication, in my heart I say, God, you're a good God. When I understand that the dignity, especially of our elder folks, is being preserved because they have their own money now. They don't have to wait on a trial to bring some money for them to buy some basic stuff that they need. And the needs may now be few. I feel a deep sense that we have been doing the right thing. When I see the young people have benefited so much from this government, the hundreds who have gone abroad pursuing education, the hundreds who have been supported with special grants and support by this government, all these are laudable actions of the government that will transform the lives of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis for the better. So there are too many success stories, and maybe when this journey is ended, I could be more sober and reflective and analytical in determining which of these has been, in my view, the best delivery. Has it been the stellar fiscal management of the country, delivering surplus after surplus, bringing an end to the high taxes, bringing again sovereign ownership over our fiscal affairs by taking St. Kitts and Nevis out of the hands of the IMF? Has it been the fact that we have redeemed hundreds of acres of land that had been poofed away by the administration before us? And how did we do it? We have spent over $400 million to clear more than half of that indebtedness, to bring back lands so that it could now be available to our people. Many people ask how it was so difficult to get lands, because 1,700 acres of land were, as it were, mortgaged over to the bank and then to a special purpose vehicle to hide the $775 million indebtedness left behind by the Douglas administration. What we are seeing now, more people being able to get a piece of the rock. We have been able, for example, to build a modern community center and land reclaimed from the land for dead swap right there in our place. We have been able to provide homes for people there. We have been able to make lands available to our farmers, not just there, but throughout St. Kitts and Nevis. We have been able at Brighton to redeem lands that were part of the land for dead swap and make them available now for housing development. In other words, good things have happened for us in St. Kitts and Nevis.
As you calibrated your Proudest scale, or your scale of Proudest achievement, you did mention the peace amongst the previously warring people. And that would have acted as a precursor to catalyze many economic activities, because businesses were actually suffering. They had shorter opening hours. They could not plan properly because they feel that there was always the suspense of somebody might interfere with them. And these same persons, they screamed for help many years before. They were asking for the opportunity to show what they had above their shoulders, and they were denied. They were not given any opportunity. A key thing that your government did was to embrace, and that is what we're lacking. In psychology, we talk about family therapy being so effective, but in a societal environment where persons might have traveled that broad path, governmental embracement is at the nucleus of making this transformation or metamorphosis of these people. What you thought, what are you thinking about the eventual embracement of those persons' screams for help?
Well, I start from the perspective that our human resource, our people, represent our greatest assets. And as a small country with a small population, we could ill afford to lose one talented person. And therefore, every effort must be made to embrace, to help, to invest. Incidentally, in our last budget, a central theme was about investing in our people. Not some, all of our people. And I take a great sense of pride when I see some of those persons, I call them at one point the prodigal sons. Some of those persons, even who are on the road to Damascus, have made a turn for the better. They are now responsible, loving fathers, helping their children, doing homework, taking them to school, giving them support, taking them to the Explorers Club. That is a good thing that will continue. They are now businessmen in their own right, with retail businesses and other businesses. They are now key to our food security as farmers doing good jobs. And so I see this as a blessing. I see it as a state taking the responsibility and leading in the empowerment of our people, who are our critical resource at this moment in time. And so I am very pleased that we were bold enough. And there were times really when there was self-doubt. But I remember it was one Juve morning, I was walking near Rams, and a lady from Newtown came and she said, Dr. Harris, they're talking a lot of things about the peace, but I want to tell you, don't stop it. Don't stop it. You're doing the right thing. She told me that she lost her son to brutal shooting, and up to that moment she was still traumatized. She told me, I wouldn't want this happen to another mother. And that inspired me to say this program will continue. That I can't put a dollar value on the price of one life. And is the program a perfect one? You have been involved? My answer, no, it's not perfect, but it's doing a lot of good. And we are going to make the necessary changes as the program evolves to ensure it gets closer to perfection. But none can deny that it has been an incredible success. So much a success that persons from the UK government, from the US government, have invited our Commissioner of Police and others to come to make presentations regarding the success of our peace program, so-called. We are harnessing opportunities for our people to peace and entrepreneurship, and that is critical. And only the People's Labour Party can sustain that program. Only the People's Labour Party has the strength of conviction that every life matters, so that we can defend it and promote these particular initiatives.
On that keynote, we will take a break.
Get huge savings and blazing hot deals at Smart and Ireland Electronics. Shop at any of our stores and get blazing hot deals. Get amazing savings on computers, smart TVs, stoves, refrigerators, washing machines, cell phone accessories, tablets, and smartphones, starting as low as $199, and so much more. Everything you need for your home or business at great prices from some of the world's top name brands. Only at Smart Electronics at Port Zante and Highland Electronics on Ford Street. Visit your nearest store for details. Conditions apply. All COVID-19 protocols will be observed.
Well, we have laid the foundation. You have some fodder for your thoughts. Now, let us hear what you have to say, what you have to ask, what contribution you have to make by calling 760-3049. 760-3049. And we'll be happy to facilitate your communication with us, whether by way of question or suggestion. We stand ready to at least facilitate to the best of our abilities. Hello.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Nital.
Hi, good evening. How are you doing? Welcome to The Point.
Good evening to Timothy Harris.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Curtis Cook. Me and about 50 workers work for TDC. And I'm asking you the question, Mr. Timothy Harris. When can we have a meeting and sort out our severance money? I'm a citizen of this country. I work hard for my money. You know, I also used to work at the airport. And I need some answers that why my airport ID was pulled. Because you see, you are the leader of this country. And everybody needs to respect each other. You are asking for respect like everybody else. And it's good to see, and congratulate you that you've been on Freedom tonight. I'm surprised you're not originally in the studio. But it's good to see that you could see to freedom. And I'm getting the phone, I'm asking you for my money, but 1 second.
Okay, we have quite a long queue, so if you can take 10 seconds for this.
I thought you were going to answer at the same time.
No, not at the same time. We'll take no second calls and we will answer. Okay, we have other callers. Hello. I don't know if you want to address that now while we await other questions.
Well, very quickly, most of the questions
that... one caller, if you just... Good evening, welcome to On The Point. The Point.
Good evening. First, let me congratulate Mr. Nital for having this program called The Point. Very good program.
Thanks much.
I'm going to get to the point. Good night, Mr. PM. Happy to see you. And what I like is that you always answer to the call. You said PLP deliver for the people. and you continue delivering for the people. My question here, these are crucial times. I'm seeing the cases are rising slowly, but it seems to be under control. I know you have done a significant job in keeping us safe. Now you have a small ministry. How are you, as the leader that you are of our country, continue to protect us? What are your plans in taking us a step further during this last few months that you had as the leader of St. Kitts and Nevis? I know there are many challenges. There are a lot of fake news going around. I'm surprised I'm not hearing you speaking much about these fake news because it's not nice. You know, when people try to tarnish your name and bring down your name, and I, Bucket as my media, will stand by you and protect you when these false accusations are made against you. So again, how are you going to continue to protect us? We just get a 10% increase. There's rumors there's something coming next month.
10 more seconds.
Is that true? 10% will be active from January. I heard you in the opening statement speak about what you have done to benefit the country, and we're speaking about the country. You are not speaking about PLP supporters, you're not speaking about PAN, you're speaking about the country as a whole.
Thanks much, Bucky. Thanks much. We have quite a long queue. Thanks much for your contribution. Hello, good evening.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
My question is, I'm seeing a lot of people claiming credit for the peace program on social media. Can you tell us how that came about?
Okay, thank you for that question.
No problem.
Okay, could we adjust? And while you are about to address Bucky's issue concerning the COVID, we have a question here from someone. It is stated that the Federation vaccination coverage for adults is 83.4% first dose and 78.3% fully vaccinated. But when we break it down by island, we see St. Kitts' first dose as 88.2% and fully vaccinated as 81.9%. In Nevis, first dose 70.8% and fully vaccinated a mere 68.6%. Nevis got its fair share of vaccines to protect the people of Nevis, but they have always lagged behind us significantly with vaccination coverage. We know that you, Timothy Harris, above all else, in the unity construct, took an active role in the fight against COVID to ensure all get the best protection, which is the vaccine. With the surging cases in Nevis now and the low vaccination coverage of adults there compared to St. Kitts, do you think that this is an indictment against the leadership there? And are you surprised that we have not heard COVID-19 being addressed in any significant way from the other parties who have launched campaigns and candidates?
Thank you. The question of the ID is not one that I could respond to. That is a matter, if the gentleman has an ongoing concern, he should put to his employer who issued and who would have withdrawn the ID. Those are not matters that detain the Prime Minister, respectfully. The matter of the severance pay, this is a matter for the Labour Commissioner. If he is dissatisfied with the judgment and decision of the Labour Commissioner, there are mechanisms for appealing decisions of the Labour Commissioner, and I will advise that those processes be activated to bring him some further comfort as to the fairness of the determination with respect to that matter. It's not a matter which I am familiar. I don't oversee or look at the individual claims that are there. I do intend, however, to see in the context of this matter being put, to perhaps ask some questions about the group of persons to whom he has made reference. The question for support of freedom is not a new one. I have always been supportive of freedom, and Juni Libert would tell you I had been one of his biggest fan. Indeed, Juni perhaps may even go further and say on the Team Unity, his radio station has done much better, and the Prime Minister has been personally to the office of the Prime Minister been supporting our programs always aired through Leadership Matters, our press conferences, and truth be told, we pay for these services. So that is support that we have provided for the record, and we believe in the free press, and both beyond the government radio station, Freedom, when all of them have had the fullest support of my government in terms of supporting their services. The matter of the COVID cases we have seen around the world in some specific countries within the region and beyond, an upsurge in the cases of COVID-19, and of course that is a worrying feature. We hope never to have to go back to the dark days of 2020, 2021, when we were in the worst phases of this deadly virus, so we continue to monitor. It is true that within the Federation we have had better performance by vaccination rate on the island of St. Kitts than we have had in Nevis. And that is something, of course, that we have to look at. There's a large disparity, and that is reflected in the statistics which you spoke to. Leadership, yes, is critical to the response, and when we look at the studies that have been done and the reports coming out of PAHO and other agencies, leadership does matter in the response that we have been having, and the involvement of leaders certainly helps to motivate others to do the right thing with respect to their health and safety. So it's still new, and we hope over time, my hope is that Nevis will do as well in terms of its vaccination rate, in terms of the good health, etc., as St. Kitts is doing. We are one federation, and we want as much as possible for all of us to have the protection and the safety. The peace program is an important program, and the peace program came to the government by and large from a core group of persons who, I would say, had a conscience, had a vision that better could be done to control crime and reduce crime in the country. And a core group of persons came, presented proposal to the cabinet, and we bought into that. I provided leadership and support to it, and we have come a long way from those days where the persons involved, some were bankers, some were representatives from the police, some were guidance counselors, some were preachers. So it is an all of society approach in some respect, where persons with conscience, persons who had seen the suffering occasioned by the high crimes in the country had come together and say, working together we can do something about it. I want to say thank God for their intervention, and thank God that we had a supportive government. We have seen the benefit of that initiative, and I want to commend you, Nital, because you have been one of the founding persons around this initiative, and at some point you may want to speak more of this. I know that you have taken some of the young men who had been part of the peace program, you have brought them public on your show, and you have spoken to their own redemption story, how they have been transformed, what new things they have been doing, how they are now a blessing to their communities. Have all of them held up their bargain and the expectation? No. But in every society, not everyone will be performing at the superior level we would want to. So I'm very, very pleased about the peace program. I will continue to support it, to improve upon it, and I want to thank the caller for mentioning it.
Do we take a break? We have callers? Good evening. Welcome to The Point. Hello. Hello, good evening. Could we take a break? Okay, we have a caller now. Good evening. Welcome to The Point with Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Sylvester Harris. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
I just want to tell you all good night. Nice seeing the PM, looking sharp as usual. And nice to see you little as usual.
Thanks much.
And I've been living in Central Bastia for a long time, and I always voted for Labour. But this election, because I have a new option, which is PLP, and not just PAM, I'm voting for you, Mr. PM. Coming up this election, you have my vote 125%, not just 110, but 125. And I remember when your crime was high, sky high, soaring, all these murders used to go on and stuff like that. And I couldn't take that, and I was so afraid for my kids to go outside and to go on the road in the evening time and stuff like that, and it bothers me. But now I am worried that Labour and PAM want to come in again and ruin it for all of us. That is something that I don't want. And my question is, how can we stop that from happening?
Am I caller?
Yeah, hello.
Am I sensing that you're expressing you're being fed up of the PAM and Labour? You're being PAM and Labour fatigue, so to speak?
Yes, I have. Yes.
So you need a new option.
Yes, sir.
I think I sense that much.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks much for your call.
PLP all the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome to The Point.
Hi, good evening. Nice program. My question is to the Prime Minister. With reference to the 10% increase that you said tomorrow, was that as the Prime Minister think it's a Nevis and not just think it's alone? Would that be to Nevis advantage and have any support going over to Nevis to ensure that civil servants and Nevis get their 10% increase also?
Thank you very much for that question. We have them queued up, and at appropriate juncture, the Prime Minister would have your question addressed. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to The Point. Hello. Hello. Good evening. Hello. If you are hearing me, I'm not hearing you.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I'm okay, and how about you?
How are you, the boss? This is Sebadan.
Hello.
Yeah, this is Sebadan from Tabernacle House all the way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that contribution. Good evening. Welcome to The Point. Hello.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. Good evening to you and the Prime Minister.
Good evening, sir.
It's quite coincidental that we are hosting the regional meeting of the Integrity Commission this week, because the good governance agenda has not been delivered here, as was promised, and the Prime Minister's colleagues say as leader, he should take responsibility for trying to govern for 2 terms without those vital tools to keep government accountable. The World Justice Project ranked us almost dead last among 30 Latin American and Caribbean countries in the area of openness in government. That's disgraceful, and it's one of the reasons for the mess that we are in. And finally, I know that the Prime Minister wants to forget the 18 years that he was with the SKNLP that built his career. And he disrespectfully refers to it as the Douglas Labour Party. He should be ashamed to do that. But I would like to suggest that he corrects the record that the hurricane response was unprecedented. The SKNLP built whole houses, not just roof, not just repaired roof, after previous hurricanes. Our housing stock was revolutionized. And it's an unfortunate feature of his tenure as Prime Minister. This claiming credit that was not his alone. Because he inherited a good economy. The ECCB said so. Money in the Treasury and the SIDF, right? The debt to GDP ratio was already under control. And we had a cash flow CBI, all right, with lots of real estate projects.
Mm-hmm. Good evening. Welcome to The Point.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm okay, and I hope the same thing can be said about you.
Well, I'm kind of upset right now. I'm a long-leg supporter of FAM, and I've been so disappointed and embarrassed by what the leader, Sean Richards, has done over the last week. I find it hard to believe that this man did not go to work for 90 days. I elected this man to work for me and my family, and he boasts about it. This thing is heartening, man. Anyway, Mr. PM, can you tell me what is going on in his ministries and how things have been flowing? How have you been able to keep things running?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll give the Prime Minister a chance to respond to each question.
Thanks. Very quickly to the last caller. The disappointment in her representative, I think, is one that is felt by every Sandy Pointer at this particular moment in time. We have discovered several alarming situations with respect to the performance of that ministry, and at a later date I will allow the Deputy Prime Minister to speak to those issues more fully. I think in our post-cabinet briefing, we did mention, for example, the very difficult financial circumstances which Skelec now faces, and there are other issues related to other corporations, and in due time we will make a fuller statement with respect to that. Ira McMahon, again in his usual political way, seemed to have misrepresented or misunderstood what I have said in terms of our historic response to the hurricanes. I said 3,000 families. There is no record of any response to a hurricane in the last, since 1952 until now, where 3,000 families benefited. That's just the facts, and the facts stand alone without companion, and there is none that have reached that magnitude. In relation to the good governance agenda, that is something about which we are very pleased, and in fact, Mr. McMahon must marvel of the fact that of all countries, St. Kitts and Nevis was chosen because in part we have performed on the good governance agenda, whether it is strengthening the oversight and the accountability through the legislation for the Public Account Committee, whether it is moving on the Freedom of Information Act, appointing officers, whether it is in operationalizing the Integrity Commission. We have improved and made progress on every matter related to the good governance agenda. The fact that on the good governance agenda you could pick certain things and selectively omit other things. But the kinds of programs that we have now that bring government into the sunshine is unprecedented, working for you from the highest to the lowest in the government, accounting for their work within the government. In terms of our ranking has always been an outstanding one. And yes, you could find one of the indices on which the performance has been subpar, but overall, St. Kitts and Nevis has been among the best performing countries in the hemisphere in the good governance agenda. Even the IMF, in its latest evaluation of St. Kitts and Nevis, spoke to the progress we have made on good governance. And you see that reflected in what we have done, the legislative framework, etc. Then the issue to do with the payment of the wage increase is a payment to federal employees, and it has always been this way. We have provided to the Nevis Island administration a significant 46.7% increase in budgetary allocation this year, from 45 million to 66 million, $21 million more. If the Nevis Island administration wanted to pay 10%, it could do so. They have opted for their own variation of that. But it's not for want of support, because we have provided the support asked for the Premier, and we provided that, and we have started the implementation of that 46.7% increase. So that is significantly way above 10 in that regard. In terms of the caller from Central Bar State, thank you for seeing the new option. The People's Labour Party is the only viable option for those who are voting in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we will continue the progressive agenda that we have embarked upon together. Those basically, I think, were the areas that have been raised by way of questions, and I've sought to be brief in responding to them. And I just want to disappoint McMahon by saying I look back over my life and I don't attempt to forget. I have never forgotten where I've come from and my journey. So don't think that I have, please.
At this juncture, could we take a break?
Get huge savings and blazing hot deals at Smart and Ireland Electronics. Shop at any 4 stores and get blazing hot deals. Get amazing savings on computers, smart TVs, stoves, refrigerators, washing machines, cell phone accessories, tablets, and smartphones, starting as low as $199, and so much more. Everything you need for your home or business at great prices from some of the world's top name brands. Only at Smart Electronics at Port Zante and Highland Electronics on Ford Street. Visit your nearest store for details. Conditions apply. All COVID-19 protocols will be observed.
Welcome back to The Point, and I want to remind callers, the number is 760-3049. We'll appreciate your call, and we'll do our best to facilitate a response, even if you do not have a question, but maybe a suggestion. Good evening. Welcome to The Point.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, Mr. Prime Minister, and how are you?
I am fine, thank you.
Yes, my name is Petunia Bellas, and I'm calling all the way from St. Martin. My question to you, in 2020, you said all who out stay out because of the COVID virus. We are now seeing that the cases are low. Are you still going to do that trick for us, not for the overseas voters, not to come and help Labour win? Thank you, and have a blessed night.
Thanks much. Good evening. Welcome to The Point.
Mostly thank God. You think I never call him? Me next?
Yes.
Alice.
Good evening.
He's doing like a
Good evening. You're on live.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we are hearing you clearly.
Yeah. Good night to you and my best Prime Minister. As you say, the best out of the three. You is so right. The best you're doing more than every country. They want to know how you get that done. Shame on them. Don't take them on. I will say like them, Harris again. You was with me. Why choose to be devilish? You is not my God. You was the one who looked for me. Thank you. You did not give the third caller the right answer. Good night. Have a good night. Get home safely.
Thanks much for your contribution. Good evening. Welcome to The Point with the Prime Minister.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Am I on here?
Yes, you're on. Go straight ahead.
Okay, Mr. Prime Minister, good evening.
Good
And I really do appreciate the fact that you take time out of your busy schedule to start enlightening the Federation of what would have transpired. I know everybody's trying to find out all the gossips and all the other things that would have happened. I think that laundry would have been aired already. We want to know, going forward, what are really the intentions for the new government that you would be forming in the next general election. Questions like, we saw that the public sector have been given a 10% increase. The private sector's minimum wage there are areas that people are questioning, because we have to understand the country is not only made up of the public sector, but they're the private sector, and we're all experiencing the same pain and suffering, the hardships like the public sector is experiencing. I want to thank you first too of some of the taxes that you would have reduced for small businesses. That is really appreciated. Instead of increasing taxes, we see that you would have lessened taxes, which is a great thing. We haven't seen that under any administration, and we are grateful for that. I am happy again that you would have explained what good governance, the good governance agenda is, because I suppose that is something that's been touted all along about addressing that good governance agenda, and I'm glad that you would have spoken to the fact that it's not just legislation but other things that would have been done to encourage good governance agenda. So what I would want to hear from you going forward, if you should be elected in the next general election, some of the goodies that you have for not just the public sector but the private sector.
10 more seconds.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much for the questions and your contribution. Good evening. Welcome to The Point with Prime Minister Harris. Hello. Hello, good evening. We seem to have lost that one. At this juncture, could we engage the Prime Minister's responses?
Well, to say thank you to Alice from Central Bastille for her ongoing strong support, to the person who called about the role of overseas voters. Clearly, we know that 2020 was a special scenario. Borders were closed for the protection of those of us who live here, and even those who would come here. And we are happy that we took those difficult decisions in a timely way to preserve the lives of our people. And if it becomes necessary again to act to protect the lives of our people, we certainly will make the right judgment call. So we see what the future holds with regard to that. That was a pandemic like none we have seen before, we have seen around the world. Cases are increasing. The protection of St. Kitts and Nevis relies heavily on the decision-making of the government, and so far we have done very well in making wise decisions. With respect to the increase to federal employees, what the government did, the government acted as an employer and provided its employees with a generous, historic, large 10% increase to satisfy a number of initiatives, or to satisfy a number of needs. One, help families cope with the high cost of living. Two, stimulate the economy. And thirdly, create an environment for ongoing growth and development. And we would encourage every private sector employer who can do likewise to basically be generous in their determination of the conditions of work for their employees. Now, that is quite distinct from the government setting a minimum wage, which is what would be standard in our Caribbean islands. The private sector has its own scales, its own rate of payment. What is clear is the law defines the minimum level of wage that a person can earn for contributing a certain number of hours, and the private sector cannot go in breach of the law without there being a sanction. But the private sector pay scale and the government's pay scale are different. I believe that everyone really could do well with an increase at this particular moment in time, but I do not have the authority to impose it upon private sector entities, nor do I have access to their books to determine whether they could carry that additional wage bill. And they will have to make that assessment, and I hope very shortly that they will do so. I would say that the matter of the review of the minimum wage is one that I gather has been before the tripartite body comprising the private sector, comprising the government, and comprising the union. And hopefully in due course we will have some determination with respect to this particular matter. In terms of the future, we will deliver on our alternative energy program, and in my opening remarks I say that we will want to see the moving forward, progress being made in the delay of the solar energy project, which had been, for which we have had the groundbreaking. We want to get that quickly into implementation stage, providing cleaner energy, affordable energy, and of course creating new opportunities for job in our country. We would want to see an expansion of services throughout St. Kitts and Nevis. In particular, COVID-19 taught us that our city became overcrowded because for certain critical services, our people in the rural areas had to come to town. So our banks had these long lines. And we are saying, what if National Bank pursued the program of developing its business center, bringing banking service fully available to people in the Northeast? That will happen during our next term. We will see significant improvement in the water availability in St. Kitts and Nevis. That will happen in the next term of the Dr. Timothy Harris administration. We will see significant improvement in jobs, in infrastructure. We will see critical programs being developed and supportive of our people in sports, in entertainment, etc., happening during the next term. And we will see new industries being consolidated under the Harris-led administration in the next term. The details of these, of course, will come forward when we put forward our manifesto. And we will see our social safety net, which is one of the largest and the best in the Caribbean, being reformed to make it more accessible and to have it more dependent upon the income earning status of our people. We are going to see the build out of our modern hospital facilities and critical health services being provided in St. Kitts and Nevis, not just by the government, but we have invited a number of private citizens to come invest in healthcare in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we will see this being fleshed out in the next term, of the administration. We will see the delivery and the promise of universal access to healthcare, so that more of our people who are suffering because of the high costs of healthcare would have some relief. So there will be significant positive developments under the next Harris-led administration. And I want to invite the people to stay close, stay tuned. Not only we will have the policies, we will have the people, we will have the leadership, that can best implement these policies.
And I know we do not suffer from xenophobia around here, and it is a fact that we have some non-nationals resident amongst us. Is there anything in store for those persons, despite the fact that they're non-nationals?
That's a very good question, and I'm happy to report, yes. We are knowledgeable and we understand that the immigrant population does make a significant contribution to economic activity and to enriches our socio-economic life here in St. Kitts Nevis, as it has done in Canada, in America. In fact, some of the successful countries in our hemisphere has always put a heavy weight on immigrant labor, to build labor stock, to provide skill, to provide the diversity, and St. Kitts and Nevis is no exception. We at the cabinet yesterday took a decision that we will bring relief to non-nationals, particularly those of the OECS, CARICOM, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic, who are experiencing difficulties in meeting the cost of their work permits. And so we offer a waiver for the work permit fee for 2020 and 2021. Those were the two roughest years with respect to COVID, and many persons were displaced and therefore now have a difficulty in getting their passport updated in terms of the stamps. And so we have taken a decision at yesterday's cabinet to bring full relief in terms of a waiver from the work permit for 2020, 2021, and for 2022 we have agreed that we'll have a massive 50% reduction. So those of you who are here from Guyana, from Jamaica, from the DR, from Haiti, that is very good news being provided by the team, Unity Administration, and more particularly by the People's Labour Party. I want to also say that we have taken the decision that every child in our federation should have access to education, in keeping with our signing up and several international obligations, and we will ensure that these students of our non-national have ready access to every institution of learning, even while the residency status of their parent is being determined. In other words, no child should be left behind in the jurisdiction of St. Kitts and Nevis. We have also taken a decision with respect to alien landholding license and to waive that as it relates to citizens of CARICOM. Already we had implemented that policy with respect to nationals from the OECS, and we have several other initiatives which I'm sure will come out in the post-cabinet briefing. Again, the People's Labour Party is a party that looks after the interests of all our citizens and residents. And so we take into account the diversity of our residential population, and we want to respond to the needs of all.
Do we have time to facilitate a few more calls? Good evening and welcome to The Point with Prime Minister Harris.
Good evening again, Mr. Nital.
Good evening.
I just heard the Prime Minister said. You have answered the question anyway. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. You have 20 seconds. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just heard the Prime Minister talking about looking after the national. Mr. Prime Minister, I'm a citizen. I work hard. I need my severance money. I need you to tell me about my airport ID. You're telling me about non-national being comfortable. It's election. Stop playing with the citizens of this country. I want the money, please. Can you please look into that, Mr. Prime Minister? I'm a citizen. You're talking about non-national. If you say
five more seconds.
Timothy Harris, you said people bang water come here. I didn't bang none. Please look into the situation, please. Thank you.
Okay, thanks much. It's unfortunate. Or do we have a next caller? Good evening. Welcome to The Point with the Prime Minister.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Nital. Good evening, Honorable Prime Minister.
Good evening, sir.
Now, I have a few quick questions I would like to get when you answer when I quickly, firstly, the $500 assistance program. I heard rumors of the rekindling of this program, and I was just wondering if the program is really coming back on stream, or
the program has always been on stream. The program has always been on stream.
The program was never suspended.
Right.
Okay, well, I'm hearing that, they don't know when they're going to get to matters that have been outstanding since last year, thereabout. So maybe there's a backlog or something like that. Secondly, I'm just wondering about the solar farm. And I'm wondering if we don't have the skills here. And, can we combine that with a relationship that we would have with China or Taiwan and then, places that actually manufacture solar panels and so on. And if we can just use the skill here with local investment and so on to do our own thing, I don't see why we need
10 more seconds. 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds.
Okay, that's the other thing. And the other thing is the priority that we're placing on this alleged building of a prison versus, the healthcare services and building, more equipped.
Okay, 0 seconds remaining. Thank you very much for your call. Good evening. Welcome to The Point with Prime Minister Harris.
Good night,
Good night, sir.
Good night to the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris.
Good night, good night.
Dr. Timothy Harris, I want to commend you for your good leadership in this Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to commend you and the Cabinet to continue to do what you got to do for this country, because you're doing a wonderful job. And I know when the bell ring and election call, is only Harris again and PLP again. Now, Dr. Harris, a quick question to you. Now, when you had your press conference, your monthly press conference, when they asked the former Deputy Prime Minister about the school, he said that everything done in place for the school. Only some people got to come in and access whatever. And up to now, the school can't start or nothing. So the people out there just want to know. As he was the Prime Minister and he was the under that ministry, what caused the school not to start up to now?
Okay, we just have a few more seconds.
Yeah,
because the Prime Minister would have to respond, and you got to facilitate us that flexibility for him to answer in a fulsome fashion. So we'll have to end that call now. There are other programs that you'll get a chance to air your ongoing concerns, but at this juncture, we must give the PM a chance to address the issues.
Thank you. Very quickly, with respect to the solar farm, this is a matter that has been determined actually some years ago, and we will always be interested in our nationals being able to invest and to provide support, but there are times when our nationals may not be interested in certain endeavor nor be able to bring forward the resources. There will always be a room for foreign and local investment into the country. With respect to the prison, we all know that 1840 has been long outlived its purpose and had been something that had been promised by administration before us. So the fact that we have been able to secure a mechanism to have that correction facility established is a very good thing. And I want us not to think about prisoners as if they are less than human. There are international obligations that we have to satisfy with respect to the way in which we treat all of our citizens, and those in our prison are no less deserving of humane treatment. Healthcare service will always be a priority for my government, and if you look at the budget, you would see that we continue to make significant investment in healthcare. And I did speak to the transformation of the health sector that will take place and the significant development in health services we will see under the new administration. With respect to the Proudest High School, monies have always been in the budget. The Ministry of Education did not deliver on that particular project, and that has been a matter of concern. We now have a new Minister of Education who is working diligently to fulfill all the requirements for the start of the Proudest High School. So it is something that will be delivered, and the new Minister of Education, the Honorable Vincent Byron, has been full speed ahead in getting these things in place. It is not true that all that needed to be done was done. Things were left undone, and we will have a reporting on those things in due course.
All good things would have to come to an end, unfortunately. And we could have gone on for hours and hours. Our natural propensity to communicate and relate to each other. We'd like to thank the callers who called in and made the program what it turned out to be. And we hope that you would have garnered some information that would make you even wiser. I think that this first program was informative, instructive, and transformative, because many gray areas would have been put into distinct shades of black and white. Don't forget, we have this program on a weekly basis, every Tuesday from 8 until 10. So thank you for joining us and being with us, and we look forward to our next program next week, Tuesday. A very special thank you to the Prime Minister for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule to come and be a part of our program and give us the blessing of being the first guest on this program, The Point.
Thank you very much, and thanks to all our callers.